Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's webinar, Understanding Your Communications Costs. My name is Jason Nadeau. I'm the product manager at SureWeb for our various voice solutions, and I'm joined today by James Welburn, our technical solutions advisor.
Hey,
Hi,
Jason,
James.
how you doing?
Great. Today we're going to be going through a quick overview of your communications costs, how things were before we were all sent home, how things are changing and will become as we're either going back into the office or just transitioning to the new normal. We're going to be focusing mostly on comparing apples with apples. So that's really understanding your communication costs by looking at one person's offer or one particular offer versus another. And then how you, with that information, you can really optimize your communication costs to make sure that you're only spending on what you need.
Absolutely. So we'll start off then by looking at sort of the way things were. All right. So for many of you, much like the ShareWeb team here, back in April or March, there things started to drastically change. So we went from having 4 offices scattered across Quebec, and now we are 900 plus employees, all working remotely. We are slowly opening our offices back up, but all this to say that things took a big change. So luckily we were and are a cloud company. So a lot of our tools were already up in the cloud. But it was a big change. So all the things that we used to do, so like the in-room trainings were one that I particularly miss, along with trips, just the chats by the water cooler. These things have all kind of gone by the wayside, at least temporarily. So it's just to draw a little bit of a parallel there, is to say that chances are what you're experiencing in your company is what we're experiencing as well. The good news is with the right tools, we got through it quite seamlessly, and hopefully so have you. So definitely reach out to us, reach out to your account manager. If you do have any needs or anything that may be dragging or maybe hindering your success here. So yeah, it's a very different world.
Indeed. So this new world that we're coming in now, survey says that 48% of employees are most likely to keep working remotely. So before this, we had under 30% of workers that were remote. Nowadays, or for the coming back, it seems as though most businesses are going to keep a certain amount of people remote. A lot of businesses have been using contract workers now instead of hiring new staff. And definitely something that we noticed on the Teams end with Microsoft and even with our Cloud PBX solution, a huge increase in communications, which makes sense because we're all separate now.
Yeah, absolutely. So really what we're seeing is, as Jason mentioned there, it's either we're going to look to outsource to offset some of our fixed costs, to make it a little bit more manageable, a little bit more flexible. So that's something we're seeing a lot. Unfortunately, we do see a lot of companies and a lot of sectors, almost entirely for some, that have downsized, have had to maybe furlough some employees, maybe just really reduce their workforce as the demand for their product or service isn't quite what it used to be. So we're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of changes. The good news is that it's not all negative. Obviously, there's some sectors, notably in the medical, anything sterilization as well. These sectors have continued to boom. So it's very good for them. And really, I guess the whole point of the webinar here is really to help you to optimize. We understand your revenue stream may not be what it was. Obviously, right? A lot of what was keeping a lot of companies afloat is sort of a little quieter now. So if we can't boost your revenue, well, we want to help you to manage costs. And as Jason mentioned, we'll run through some of the ways we can help to do that. We just wanted to draw a little parallel here just to show you a little bit of, to let you know really that you're not alone in this, and we're all kind of figuring our way through it here.
Absolutely. I know ShareWeb, our IT team, and a bunch of people from various teams actually really got together, and we're over 700 employees at ShareWeb. Practically over the course of a weekend, we were all told to go home and I guess stay there. But we were all sent home. equipped to continue working, right? Because of all of our tools are in the cloud, including, you know, our phone systems and our communications capabilities. We're sharing a few pictures here of our various coworkers and their home offices, and even our totally empty SureWeb office in Sherbrooke. So right about now, what we're seeing is the businesses are just, well, you know, we're all in this situation. So we're focusing on, you know, maintaining productivity for our business to keep it afloat, keep business running, equipping our employees so that they're able to keep doing their job efficiently and still being productive while working from wherever they're working now.
Mhm.
And not necessarily something people were wanting, but this means now that everyone's home, we all have increased security needs that we really got to you know, keep at the forefront at all times.
Yeah, so as much as you want to help to manage costs, just make sure you're not doing it at the
The extent
expense, right?
of security, that's right. Sorry, James.
Yeah.
Just to give a few examples of what we do with our communication platforms as far as security, and is something that I hope all of you are thinking about if you have, you know, people with with work computers and phones at home. We have our endpoints, their physical telephones, are all encrypted and have a unique encryption key across the entire platform. It's all managed remotely. You know, we have individual logins for users, for admins, PIN codes and traffic trend monitoring for international calling, automatic feature deployment. Really, the list goes on and on and on. So your communication system, make sure it's secure.
Yeah,
You don't want to be one of those companies that ends up in the news.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, good. So that was just some little tidbits there. You could see we kind of just sort of ran through that a little bit quickly. But really, that just keeping your needs in the forefront for your customers, obviously, as well as your internal team as well. Something that also that we took the time to do is to improve ourselves or to better our team. So little things like training could be a great time, especially with the reduced workload. It could be a great time to upskill, to give your employees maybe some new tools. We are proud to support a product called Quick Help, in which it is an online learning platform. So you can assign different modules or tasks to your team for them to go ahead and complete. So it's like a self-learning, albeit guided, very short, digestible videos. You can even load your own content for anything that's more specific to your organization. So this is something that personally, I've taken a good amount of time, as it has been a little bit quiet on the communication side has been a little hectic. But instead of running for 12 hours a day, now I'm down to about 10. So a little time to get some learning in the evenings there.
Awesome. So comparing apples with apples. So at this point, we're really going to dig into the costs that are involved in your communication or telephony platform. And one thing that I know I do almost every day, and so does James, is basically to get to the level of comparing apples with apples, because no two offerings are alike right off the bat. And you need to understand what it is you need and what it is that you're paying for.
Yeah. So this
So
is something. Oh,
go ahead.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I was gonna say. So this is something that we, as Jason said, we go through it so much. Um, and it's really that, right? So you want to make sure you're secure. You want to make sure you have the functionality that's needed. Um, Having a more attractive price point is absolutely part of the equation, right? We'd be fools to say otherwise. But making sure you're doing so in the right way. So quite often we'll get approached and we'll have a customer who's we're looking to offer them a solution, and sometimes we happen to be generally we're under, mind you, but there are sometimes just some vendors who do offer purely based on price point. So in this case that we have on the screen here, this is comparing an older phone system. So it's what do I have today? So these are systems that you most likely made some substantial investments into. When it came to the deployment of the solution itself, the technicians were probably on site for a few days. If you had any maintenance or any updates, any moves, even to just moving a phone from one office to another, normally would incur a charge there as well. So what we just wanted to highlight here is really when we say comparing apples with apples, we'll make sure we're not looking at apples and pears. And for you as well, right? So as you're doing the analysis and as you're maybe looking at a new vendor who's maybe going to meet your needs a little bit better, just to make sure that maybe their price point looks good, but to really make sure that your needs are being met, as that's really always in the forefront.
Right, and you don't always look at that dollar amount right off the bat, right? So if you've got this on-prem system, maybe an old Nortel or Panasonic or Avaya that's on your closet that you bought X amount of years ago, if you compare your phone bill, you take out your bill from Bell or from Verizon, you see it's at, let's say, $150 a month. And then you go and call James and say, hey, I want to upgrade my phone system. I want all the latest features. I want collaboration. I want productivity. I want video calling. And he makes you a quote for maybe Cloud PBX or Managed Teams Voice that ends up at $200 a month. And then we get, well, hey, why is this more expensive? But that is not comparing apples with apples, right? Because that $150 a month bill from Bell, wow, that's a tongue twister, is really only including the lines, the PSTN connectivity, the connection to the outside world. In that $150 bill, everything that James just mentioned, the hardware, the phone system, the installation, the add moves and changes, none of that is included. So you really got to put that together, that $10,000 up front that you spent on the PBX and just some of the phones, and then every single time you have that guy come in to do a minor change, those really add up.
Yep. And this is what we call, and we have it for other tools as well, as part of our offering, but we call it the total cost of ownership, or a TCO calculator. So to really take all that into account. Again, it's just, that's the way you're going to make an informed decision, and really be able to compare apples and apples.
That's right. So we have another similar option now. So this slide, we were really comparing that on-prem solution, that physical phone system that you bought and installed in your office. That's actually still the majority of what's out there right now. And now we're going to show you what it's like if you're comparing with another hosted PBX provider. So like the phone system is in the cloud, which is a little bit, or it's closer to what we're doing. So once again, comparing apples with apples, you might get a quote from us at $200 a month. Our services include everything. We don't want to surprise you with any extra costs. So you have every single features built in. There's no limit on the amount of automated attendance you can have, or the menus within menus within menus that you could have. You could record your calls at no extra cost. All the add moves and changes, it's included. The support, the 24/7 technical support is included in that price. Whereas a lot of other people that are getting quotes, they might come up and say, hey, I've got this $8 extension, and why are you more expensive? But that's all it is. If you really start digging into that quote, and by the way, you can call us for this and we're going to help you do it. James does this so often, he's an expert. So you gotta, is it just the extension? What about conference bridges? What about the automated attendance? What about a soft phone? What about voicemail transcription? What about minutes and your actual connectivity? Some guys are selling you that $8 extension, but you still don't have a connection to the outside world. You literally cannot make a phone call yet with just that $8 extension. So I always recommend, we're giving you tips and tricks here now, but ideally give us a call and we'll do it together.
Yeah, and this, as you do the exercise, obviously any good purchase is sort of that sort of measure twice, cut once. So really just to understand what you're looking at, and as Jason kind of mentioned there, it's don't be don't see the shiny object and think this is the best deal, but really what's included, and dig. Just ask some questions if you want. We'll leave this up for an extra couple seconds here, but maybe just take a screenshot of this and just say, hey, what about some of these features here? Because I know soft phone for one, that was very astute of you, Jason. There, I definitely see that regularly, where $5 a soft phone. Hunt groups as well, I see quite often $10 per group. in the back end, right? It all kind of it's all part of the solution, at least with us, and at least it should be. So just to know when you're comparing really side by side. I was waiting for my pun here, but it's going to be a fruitful exercise for you to go through to really understand what you're looking at.
I love it.
Every time I see the slide, I can't resist. Um, so there we kind of showed you when you're looking with what you have, so what is versus what may be, or what you're exploring as an option, whether to increase efficiency, to offer a better experience, maybe just on a pure cost savings. So there we give you some tips there. So that's more of an external solve. Here's some things that you can do inside your company. So we kind of see it as an audit. It's just really having a good understanding of what you're paying for versus what you're using, and to see if there's any overlap or any room to run a little bit more efficiently. So we do have about 8 questions altogether. So these are some things that you can look through. Again, if you want to reach out to us, if you have any of this information, we'll be sending out a short survey in a day or so as well. But just take a look through. We can put some together, kind of give you an idea of what it might look like. But really, this is primarily for you, whether we see it or not. Honestly, it's hopefully you'll be a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more aware of what's involved. So
Yeah, so we kind of, if we stick with the aspect of optimization at this point, so, so first step is just really look at those lines and numbers, and do you need all of that right now, right? Like if your call volume has gone down drastically, maybe you still have an on-prem system. You might have 10 phone lines in there to make and receive calls, but nobody at the office. So you might be able to trim those 10 down to 3. Do you have a physical fax machine? Is there faxes that are coming out of a machine at an office that you're not at right now? Maybe it's time to convert that to fax to email. It's going to be more convenient and it's going to be less expensive.
absolutely, yeah. So just is having a good understanding. I think that's wonderfully said. Especially, with a lot of us, the workforce has diminished or has decreased for many. So yeah, that's really it. If you're paying for 50 lines, maybe, especially now, I know a lot of partners and customers that I get to speak to, they're at home, they're all using their cell phones. Maybe they're all using Teams for everything internal, and then their cell phones for everything external. So these are all things that they have a value, absolutely, but you need to be paying top dollar when you're using 20% of it. Just a little food for thought there.
Right. I'm just going to throw in there, by the way, if anybody has any questions, please use the questions section within the GoToWebinar app. I am seeing some, so we will be answering this very shortly, actually, because this is a short webinar. We're already getting close to the end, so we're going to be doing a Q&A soon. So any questions, everybody, please knock yourselves out, ask them now. Now's the time.
Excellent.
Sorry,
So once you,
James.
no, it's perfect. I was just gonna say, once you've done your lines and your phone numbers, you have a good understanding of that sort of front end of things, and now we start to look a little bit more internally. So as you mentioned, there's maybe some freelancers maybe that are coming in to help you out. Maybe unfortunately you had to downsize a little bit. So if you're looking at a 60 user, or maybe you're a 20 user organization, but only 5 of you are currently at a full-time status or have access or using the phone system, well, there too, maybe there's room for you to trim down a few users. Maybe you can pause them temporarily until business starts to get back to normal a little bit. So again, it's really small things. The
Yeah, so
conference
things
room
to
is
think
one.
about, like, can you do that with your existing system? So we're here to help you right now to understand and optimize your communications costs. So no matter what system you have, are these things that you need to be paying for right now? Same thing goes if you're one of our customers. If you're a Cloud PBX customer, it's a month-to-month service. You can put a plan on hold. You can call us and say, hey, all my conference room phones are not being used right now. Put those on hold. I'm going to let you know in X amount of months when I want to resume a service for those devices.
Yeah, and that's a super popular one. That's I definitely get that question a couple days a week. But yeah, absolutely. With empty offices, you're paying for a conference room that has been vacant for 3 or 4 months now. So yeah, it's a little cost. Maybe something like a common area if you have a lobby. Obviously, if you're not receiving customers into your place of business, well, having a lobby phone for the nobody that's going through may be an area where you can start to reduce your costs there. As Jason said, there with ShareWeb, we do offer that flexibility. Hopefully, your current provider does as well. And again, we'd obviously love to have you as part of the ShareWeb network. But it's meant for you, this webinar here today. So if you can trim that with your current provider, by all means go ahead and do so. Just remember who gave you the tips.
Um, before you go on, James, with this last slide, by the way, I'm just going to go ahead and take the opportunity to ask one of the questions within our webinar right now that somebody's asking, just because it kind of fits in.
Perfect.
What are the VoIP vendor options besides Microsoft, is what we're being asked.
Yeah, so there are a plethora, too many, some would say, but definitely ShareWeb is a great bet. Microsoft solution is nothing to be kind of put aside. It's definitely on its way to being something phenomenal. It's already great as is. So definitely ShareWeb would be one of those vendors. Absolutely, we offer everything from SIP trunking, if you just want to replace some phone lines, or a PRI perhaps. We offer our Cloud PBX, our flagship product as well for our business telephony solution. Even an integration into Microsoft, should that be an avenue you want to explore. From there, you will see some others that, as Jason mentioned, they're going to come in at some really, I'm looking for a very polite way to say this here, but some very economical offers. So they're a dime a dozen. There are a lot of vendors out there. The ones who are doing it right, though, I'd say maybe there's 15 or 20 in North America who are worth listening to, let's say. So yeah, we can definitely kind of pick your brain, or if you want to talk a little bit about it after, if you have anything in mind. Jason and myself do try and stay up to date in the industry as well, so we'll be able to give you some feedback we receive from our customers and partners as well.
So to summarize, Microsoft phone system, you can come see us for. We have a managed Teams voice option where we can go ahead and actually give our white glove service where we build everything out within the Microsoft phone system and deliver it to you. So you don't have to become a telecom expert. If I find it's a pretty specific type of business that's going to go with replacing their phone system with Teams. There's others that are very much more traditional, that like the more traditional phone system, and that kind of customer would go towards Cloud PBX. So come see us, give us a phone call. We've basically got something to cover every type of business and every kind of scenario. So we'll talk with you. We're going to understand what you want to have done, or what you use your phone system for, what you would like to use your phone system for, probably provide some advice, for best practices about how it's configured and how it's used.
Absolutely.
With our services, you've always got our 24/7 technical support. We provide a project manager. So every time you install a new phone system or replace an aging phone system, you get a project manager that's assigned to you, who's going to take care of the onboarding and pretty much, let you know what needs to be done and when. We've got continuous training that's available, whether it be in the shape of webinars, whether it be on Quick Help, whether it be online on our website.
Yeah, or even in-person training for you and your team as well. Maybe not in person, sorry, I overstepped, but we can do a more personalized sort of one-to-one training as well, especially for your admins, whoever's going to be managing the system on your side. We'll gladly, Jason, myself, or a member of our support team, will gladly walk you through it and give you a little bit of the lay of the land, if you will. So even right up to your end users as well, right? So your end user, your reps more so. Yeah, so definitely a lot of value, a lot of service that we bring around our solutions. Our solution alone is a great one, but then when you take into account all the extras that come with it, as Jason mentioned, just the no limits, the ability to pause, little thing that this really set us apart, and it's why we keep earning the trust of our customers, both existing and new ones that we onboard every day.
Mm-hmm. So that is the end of today's webinar. Again, I encourage everybody to ask questions. I've only got one for the moment that sort of fits into the webinar. I apologize, James. It's not specifically about understanding or optimizing the communication costs, but it's an excellent question. So I figure we'll address it.
Absolutely, we're here.
And I'll probably answer it if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for
Question
it.
is, can you talk a little bit about call quality? It seems like VoIP is super flexible, but quality is uneven. So that is an excellent question. It's an excellent question with a somewhat complicated answer. So a lot of people have that feeling about VoIP because of a bad experience they had 5, 10, 15 years ago. I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I've kind of seen the progression go 5, 10, 15 years ago, especially 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, I'd say the quality was extremely uneven, but the industry and just VoIP in general has grown up a lot since then. So now there's standards. VoIP is a common thing to send real-time video and audio over an IP network. That's very, very, very standard now. So, but there are things that need to be done to keep that perfect quality. Essentially, 99% of any call quality issue is going to come down to one of two things: the local area network or the internet connection of said local area network. So during the onboarding process, one of the first things we always do is send a network test out. And it's going to simulate 10 calls, 10 simultaneous calls. It's going to do a series of pings and trace routes to our various servers, and it's going to provide us a report of your internet connection. If at the time of running the test, we're seeing right away that you got too much packet loss or jitter, we're going to kind of put everything on hold and say, hey, we got to fix, well, this network needs to be fixed first. We're not the ones taking care of the local network. So we definitely need we'll work with your IT guy though, or your IT department. The main thing is setting up quality of service on the router. So essentially that just means of telling your router, which is kind of like that single point between your local area network and the wide area network, the internet, you want to have priority at all times to the voice traffic. That should always, always, always have top priority over anything else. If your router has to send an email, it has to send hello in real time, it's got to send that hello first. So that's what we call quality of service. Pretty much any business class router has quality of service settings. There's a lot of different ways of configuring it. We provide advice and hints, but again, we're not the ones that will be configuring the router, however. But we will do a team viewer session with your IT guy or your IT department and look for the quality of service settings together if need be. So nowadays, with a properly configured local area network with an ISP that is not experiencing any issues, VoIP quality is actually way above traditional analog line quality. For even, especially when you're calling from within our network, it's actually going to go in HD, which is nothing compared to what you're going to hear on a cell phone or on an analog line. While we're at it, we provide a 5.9 SLA on our service. So that just generally means we don't go down. Our platform is up and running 99.999% of the time. But again, it's important if anyone's new to telephony here, you got to understand that if a fiber cable gets cut out west and now someone can't call that phone number in that area because the wire is physically cut by heavy machinery, and I'm using an example that happened just a few weeks ago, um, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. No one is really, like, a cable got cut, repair crews are on the way to repair the cable. Everybody in that area is affected, no matter what carrier you're on. So yeah, short question, long answer. So that's all we have for questions. If there's anything at all, if you have questions, if you want to get up and running on your business, get some people, some remote workers, give us a call, ask for James. He loves talking to all of our partners. So do I.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we'll let you know, like, we could look at what you have right now and see if there's something you could do to change that. Actually, with that in mind, now I will go ahead and run our poll that I never ran before. Would you like to have your communications cost audited by a dedicated professional? So someone at SureWeb that is used to going through people's monthly telecommunications costs, someone that's able to dig in to find out maybe how much did you spend on this originally, what's the total cost of ownership, as James was saying earlier.
Hopefully I will get to be that professional for you. But nonetheless, I'll reach out to your point of contact at ShareWeb, or just give us a call through our published numbers. And yeah, we'll definitely take a look. Again, it's if we can find any room for you to trim what is, we'll definitely go through that with you. We'll give you some tips or some hints if there's any way to get out, if maybe you're bound by a contract or something of the sort. We can go from there to maybe even looking at what it would look like with us, and we can kind of show you some of the advantages there. We're quite honest, so if it's really not a fit, or if there's something that we aren't able to support, hey, we're super upfront about it. Again, it's we can help you. We kind of know it's going to come back in the long run here. So on that note, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your days here to join us. The video will be available in a few days as well, if ever you wanted to share with your team or any colleagues there. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out to Jason, myself, any member of the team, for anything we can do to support you in the cloud.
Thank you very much.
Bye there, guys.